The next contingency contract is going to drop in about 1 month. And while I am working really hard to get this guide out, it does take me a lot of time to make. That's why I'm making this video, to cover every single operator in Arknights EN, and briefly talk about how they can be used for the next contingency contract. This is gonna be quite the long video, so sit back, relax, and let's get into it. Now do note that this video you're watching right now is not an in-depth guide for every single operator, it is just a brief look. If you want a detailed analysis for every single map and how to get high risk, especially if you're a free-to-play player, check out the guide series. I've already made an entire series for Area 59 for the first contingency contract, so you can go click up there for that entire playlist. Do note one thing, you can use any operator that you want. This guide is not a who should you build type of guide. It is more of a, I have these operators, I want to know whether I can use them or not, I want to know how high I should level them, I want to know whether I should level them. Like, let's say you have Praminix and Mostima, for example. If you went up to me and asked me who you should level, first of all, I don't know what your team is, I don't know who else you have on your team, I don't know what level your team is at, I don't know who the rest of your operators are, so it's really hard for me to say. So instead of me giving you like a straight yes or no answer, I find that it's a lot more helpful to say how each operator can be used, especially for CC. That way you can make up your own mind on who you want to level. If I recommend Aya and you use Amiya, you can use Amiya. You probably just have to figure out how to change something so you can take full advantage of Amiya. That doesn't mean that it's so easy you can succeed with Amiya, nor does it mean that just because you're using Amiya, you're gonna fail. You have to understand your team, use your brain, and adapt to different situations. And yes, I did cut my finger open, but there's only 1 month before CC comes out, so I can't delay this guide anymore.
Disgusting!
Excuse me for the bloody finger, I don't know what happened, but we're gonna start with the 1 stars first. Okay, Casso 3, should you level up Casso 3? Let's take a look at all the maps. We have the 4 daily maps and the permastage. Of course, the previous 3 maps are gonna be returning as well. The advantages of Casso 3 is that he has a low DP cost, is very easy to level, and doesn't take up a unit deploy slot. The disadvantages of Casso 3 is that he's weak, and he takes a long time to redeploy. So knowing that, how would I use him in these maps? For the slug stage, if I were to use Casso, I would use him to bait the shots and nothing else. The advantage of that is that he doesn't take up a unit slot, so I can deploy him even if my entire team is deployed. The disadvantages is that I cannot redeploy him for the next wave. On New Street, if I were to use Casso, I would use him as a melee buffer. However, I'd be careful not to deploy him on the right side of the screen because that's where all the spear guys come from. The disadvantages of using Casso here is that he takes up a unit slot on your team, which could be better used for an extra DPS unit, for example. I would not use Casso on transit station, but he can be used to buff your melee operators. Again, the disadvantage is that he takes up a slot on your team. And on Frozen Runes, I would definitely not use Casso here because it's extremely easy for him to die. However, if I did use him, I would use him to buff my melee operators or to take a shot from one of the casters. Disadvantages, again, are that he takes up a slot for your team. For the perma stage, if I were to use Casso, it would be for buffing. However, again, he takes up a team unit slot. So would I recommend building Casso for Contingency Contract? For Contingency Contract, no, but I would still level him up to level 30 because it's extremely easy to do, plus you get the base ability. Next, we get Lancette. Perks of this operator is that everyone has her. She doesn't take up a unit deploy slot. She heals everyone on the map instantly, and she has a low DP cost. Oh yeah, and she's easy to level up. The downsides are that she takes a long time to redeploy and she's extremely easy to kill. Lancette I've actually seen been used multiple times on the desert stage, so I'm going to be showing those in videos in the future. She's a good healer here because she doesn't take up the unit deploy slot. New Street, I'm sure you can use Lancette as well, but I'm not sure how effective it'd be. I haven't seen any videos of it happening, but I'm sure you can. Again, the advantage is that she doesn't take up a unit deploy slot, so you get free healing, basically. Transit Station is a horrible map for Lancette because out of all the ranged tiles, all of them are vulnerable to enemy attacks, meaning Lancette is very, very likely to die. You could use Lancette as a drop-in healing because on her deployment, she heals everyone on the map. That could be one of the ways you could use her because she doesn't take up a unit deploy slot either. Same thing for Frozen Runes. And as for Shadowed Avenue, would use Lancette here. I personally wouldn't because I would go for the casters and medic ban. If you are not going for the casters and medic ban, why not just use a regular medic? I don't see a real need to be bringing Lancette onto this stage. I don't think you'll be taking full advantage of her. I think you definitely can, but I don't think that's the best option. I think you should max out her level because you also get the dormitory skill, and it's extremely easy and cheap to level her up. Would I level up Lancette specifically for Contingency Contract? No. Next up, we have Norkhorn. The advantages of Norkhorn is that he's cheap to level up and he's a defender, so he's got higher health and higher defense than a regular operator. He also blocks 3, and because he's a 2-star, he is cheaper to deploy than any other defender. The downsides is that there are a lot of defenders that are better than him. For all 4 of the daily stages here, you can deploy Norkhorn to tank some shots, stall the enemies, or catch leaks. The reason he's good for that is because of his low DP costs. Same thing for Shadowed Avenue, you could use him to catch things that slip past, or just use him to tank some stuff. I have seen him been used as an actual defender for 18 risk, and he does just fine. So he's extremely cheap to raise and does his job well. For the general game, he easily gets overwritten by a lot of other defenders, and he doesn't really do anything special. Would I level him up for CC? No. Would I level him up for the general game if I have not already leveled him up? Probably not either, because his base skills aren't that good anyway. Next up, we have Rangers, a 2-star sniper. Advantages of Ranger is that he's cheap to level up, everyone has him, and he's cheap to deploy. Disadvantages is that he's easily overwritten by a lot of higher rarity units. Would I use Rangers on any of these maps over any other operator? Not really, because you can't E1 Rangers and thus he doesn't have the proper range. And for that reason, I'd much rather go for an E1 Cruz or an E1 Jessica. Would I level him up specifically for CC? No. Would I level him up for the general game if I did not already level him up? No. Next is 12F. The advantages of 12F is that everyone has him, and he has 50% physical dodge. He's also easy to level up, that's right. Yes, his deployment cost for an AoE caster is cheaper than other AoE casters, but 24 cost is not cheap. For all of these maps, what I would use 12F for is I could put him down and hope and pray that the 50% dodge actually kicks in. Any stage here where enemies are attacking you with physical range damage, you can try to play your luck with 12F and see if he dodges. However, that's extremely RNG. Yes, he also does magic AoE damage, but that's not really that impressive because he's a 2-star. Would I level him up specifically for Contingency Contract? No. Would I level him up for the base game? I would, because he also gets this base ability for when you're crafting chips. Durin, the 2-star caster, advantages is that everyone has her. She's cheap to level up and she has a 50% magical evasion. There are only 2 stages here where enemies attack you with magic, and that's the Ice stage and Shattered Avenue. And even though she has a 50% magical dodge, I don't see why you would need to use Durin here. I don't like to put my hand in the fate of RNG. I would much rather deal with the casters in some way that I know with 100% certainty that it will work. Would I level up Durin specifically for CC? No. Would I level her up for the base game? Also no. Yato, 2-star Vanguard. Advantages of Yato, everyone has her. Low cost to deploy, easy to level up, and only has a 30-second redeploy time. So in a way, she is a great value, fast redeploy. Yato can be used on any of these 5 stages. Her primary role would be to catch, leak, stall enemies, or to bait shots. She's very good at doing that, and her kit is designed around that. Some people could find an advantage using Yato over any other operator. Would I level her up specifically for CC? I would wait until CC actually comes before I do it if I have not already done so. So if you level her up now, you can use her for factory, but she may not be useful for CC. Or you can choose to wait till CC and see if you actually need her, then level her up. Again, she's a 2-star, she's extremely easy to level. Even if you maxed out her levels, it wouldn't cost you too much. Finally, we start getting to the 3-stars. We have Spot, Healing Defender. Advantages of Spot is that he's cheap to level up and is a very low-level healing defender. The disadvantages is that he gets overwritten by a lot of better healing defenders. You could use him on all the maps as a regular healing defender, however, he would not be the best pick for any of them. Yes, he has a lower DP cost than any other defender, but that doesn't really matter. Would I level him up specifically for Contingency Contract? If you did not have another healing defender and Spot is the only healing defender you have, then yes. Or if you only have a single healing defender and nothing else, like if you only have a Gumi, you don't have Saria, you don't have Myrtle, then yes. However, if you have at least 2 other healing defenders like Saria, Myrtle, or Gumi, then I'd call Spot a hard pass. Would I level him up for the general game? I'd at least bring him to E1 so that you can get the factory skill. But as for actually using him in the battlefield, again, if I don't have enough healing defenders, I would probably use him. Poppycar, 3-star AoE guard. Advantages of Poppycar is that she's cheap to level up, and that's it. Because she is a 3-star, she cannot get E2, meaning her maximum block count is 2, so she doesn't get the full advantage of being an AoE guard. Her skills are also nothing impressive, and neither is her base skill, so Poppycar really isn't anything special. Can you use Poppycar on any of these maps? Yes, you can, but she wouldn't be the best option for any of them. Yes, she does have a lower DP cost than any other AoE guard, but that doesn't really matter. Would I level her up specifically for CC? No. Even if you did not have an AoE guard at all, still no. Would I level up for the base game? No. Midnight 3-star range guard with arts damage. Advantages are easy to level up, arts damage, range so he can hit air as well. DP cost is lower than any other range guard, but that doesn't really matter. Skill is important because it changes his attack from physical to arts damage. However, it does cost 70 SP to charge up, which is a long charge up. On the bright side, it does last for a while. The talent here gives him an RNG chance of attacking harder. He gains an extra base skill at E1, but that's not really important. Would I use him on any of these maps? You can, but he's not the best option on any of them. Lapland beats Midnight in every single possible way, and would I level him up specifically for CC? If you do not have Lapland, consider bringing Midnight up to at least E1 and be ready to skill 7 him. Having a range guard that does arts damage is quite useful. You can put them behind defenders or have them hit over a wall to do some extra DPS to enemies that are quite hard to kill. Catapult, 3-star AoE sniper. Advantages of Catapult is that she's cheap and easy to level up. Would I use her on any of these maps? I would specifically use her mainly for the desert stage. However, she is not the best option for that stage either. As for any of the other stages, I'm sure you can use her, but there are many better options. AoE snipers do stand out on the desert stage because of their good range. However, because Catapult is unable to reach E2, she cannot take full advantage of that range. Shirayuki is a 4-star AoE sniper, and she is very easy to obtain as well. I would use Shirayuki over Catapult any day. Would I use Shirayuki alongside Catapult? If I really didn't have any more options, yes. Would I level up Catapult for Contingency Contract? If you don't have any other AoE caster, like if you don't even have Shirayuki, yes. If you do have Shirayuki, I'd E2 Shirayuki instead. Would I level up for the base game? Considering that I already have Meteor right and Shirayuki at E2, no. Base skill is good, but I've got other people who can do that as well, so no. Cardigan, 3-star self-healing defender. Advantages is that she's cheap to level up and she can heal herself pretty consistently. Her skill recovers 40% of her health and only takes 20 SP to charge up, so that's pretty fast. Would I use her on any of these maps? You very well could wherever you need a self-healing defender, such as on Shattered Avenue where my mouse is right over here, you could deploy Cardigan right there, especially if you have banned medics or if you don't have any other healing defender. Cardigan is very good at self-sustaining in remote places when there isn't too much pressure. However, on the 4 daily stages, there is a lot of pressure, so I feel like Cardigan could buckle. I don't think using Cardigan on the daily stages is a good idea. Not saying you can't use her, I'm just saying it's not a good idea. While I think it is a good idea to use Cardigan on Shattered Avenue, especially if you don't have another healing defender. Would I raise her up specifically for CC? If I did not already have another healing defender, yes. Would I level up for the base game? Same answer. Beagle, 3-star tanky defender. Advantages of Beagle is that she's cheap to level up. Disadvantages is that she gets beat by Core by a million miles. Is there anywhere here where Beagle is one of the best options? Absolutely not. Would I level up Beagle specifically for CC? No. Would I level up Beagle for the general game? If I did not have Korra or any better defender, yes. Or if Korra was my only defender, yes. Melantha, 7-star single block guard. Advantages of Melantha is that she's cheap to level up, has a lot of health, and does a lot of damage. Is Melantha the best option for any of these maps? There's a yes and no to this answer. The no part is because you can use Scotty, who does Melantha's job better. However, the yes part is because you could better allocate those resources from Scotty into someone else who's more useful, because Melantha can do her job just fine. Would I level up Melantha specifically for CC? If I only had 2 single block guards and they were Scotty and Melantha, both at E0 level 1, I would choose to level up Melantha instead because she's cheaper to level up. I think that Helliger is a lot more useful than Melantha, so if you already have Helliger leveled up, you probably don't need to level up Melantha. However, if you feel that you need an extra single block guard, especially one who has low deployment cost, I think Melantha is a very good option. Would I level her up for the base game alone? Yes, because sometimes Helliger costs too much. Orchid, 3-star slow supporter. Advantages are low cost to level up. Is she the go-to for any of these maps? Absolutely not. There's nothing that she does that any other slow supporter can't do, so all the other slow supporters beat her out. Would I level up Orchid specifically for Contingency Contract? Well, if I did not have any other slow supporters leveled and I needed a very quick and easy to level slow supporter, maybe. Like, let's say I have Estina, but I didn't want to bother leveling up Estina. Orchid is a lot easier to level up than Estina. Would I level up for the base game? No, because I rarely use supporters in the base game. And even if I did, I would level up a higher rarity one like Estina. At Nakiel, 3-star sniper. Advantages are that he's easy to level up. Is he the best option on any of these maps? Absolutely not. He doesn't do anything special that any other sniper does not do. Would I level him up for Contingency Contract? Would I level him up for the base game? If I'm low on snipers, yeah, but if I already have Exu, Blue Poison, Platinum, and Greythroat, no. Cruz, 3-star sniper. Advantage on any of these maps? Absolutely not. Would I level up for CC or the base game? Only if I'm low on snipers, yeah. Steward, 3-star single target caster. Anything special on any of these maps? Absolutely not. Would I level up for CC? Only if I need a single target caster and I don't have one, but everybody has Amiya, though Steward is easier to level than Amiya. So if you have absolutely no single target casters at all and you find a need for a single target caster, which you should have at least one single target caster raised, by the way, Steward is a very easy to level single target caster. Lava, 3-star AoE caster. Advantage on any of these maps? No. Would I level her up for CC? If you don't have any other AoE casters, and if you don't have Aya, yes. Level her up for the base game. If I didn't have any better AoE casters, yeah. Anzo, 3-star medic. Advantage on any of these maps? Yes, he actually does have an advantage. He has an extra 2 blocks of range when he uses his skill. This could come in handy. Because of this range, you could easily make a strategy that takes full advantage of this range. So yes, this is important to know. Would I level him up for CC? If I needed a medic with such a long range and I didn't have silence, so I can't put the drone to heal that range, and I can't think of any other way that I can use my regular medics, then yes. But most of the time, if I'm running, say, Warfarin, for example, I will know how to put everyone in the range of Warfarin. I don't need these extra 2 tiles of range. But if you find a strategy that you can use with these 2 tiles of range and you don't have any better medics, yeah, go ahead. Would I level them up for the base game? Not particularly, no, because Silence's drone makes up for that. And even if you don't have Silence like me, you know how to put your guys in the range of your healers. Like, you don't need them to have an extra 2 block of range. Like, yes, that does open up doors, but do you really need to put those resources into leveling up Anzo in order to open up those doors? Like, are there better operators you can invest your stuff into? Hibiscus, 3-star single target medic. Advantage on any of these maps? Absolutely not. Would I raise her for CC? No. Would I raise her for the base game? Anzo is better than Hibiscus, so no. Flume, 3-star single block Vanguard. Advantage on any of these maps? Yes, because she is cheap to deploy and does a full refund. She is specifically useful if you need to catch a leak, stall some enemies, or to bait some shots. Would you use her instead of any other single block Vanguard? You may want to consider it because she costs so little and she does a full refund. Would I level up for CC? I can totally understand why someone would, but I personally wouldn't do it. For the reasons that I explained before of how cheap she is to deploy, there's a very good argument you can make that Plume is someone worth leveling for CC. Would I level up for the base game? No, because I have Granny and Vigna, and in the base game, I'm not really that clutch on DP anyway. Next, Vanilla, 3-star offensive Vanguard. Best option on any of these maps? Absolutely not. Should you level her up for CC? If you don't have any other 2-block Vanguard, yes. However, she's not that hard to replace. If you have a Scavenger or something, that's a replacement for Vanilla already. There is one thing to note though, she does cost very little to deploy, and I did find myself using Vanilla when I was first doing CC as well. Simply because when you get dog rushed in the beginning, and you're tight on DP, Vanilla may be the only 2-block Vanguard that you can deploy. So I think that if you ever get stuck where you get on a stage and you take the DP risk and you can't deploy anyone in the beginning, leveling up Vanilla may be a good option. As for in the base game, Vanilla is extremely easy to replace, so no, not worth the investment. Fang is virtually identical to Vanilla, so I'm not even gonna bother. Utage, we're about to get her. You may not be familiar with her yet, but I highly recommend you familiarize yourself with Utage. She is one of the best 4-stars in the game. Utage is basically baby Helliger. She cannot be healed by allies, but she heals herself per hit. Her talent means that the more HP she has lost, the faster she attacks. And remember, the faster she attacks, the more she regenerates. Utage is a 4-star vampire guard, which means all the traits that I just said, plus single block. Her skill 1 makes her stop attacking and reduces her block count to 0, so she basically just sits down and recovers. Her defense also goes up to crazy. And Utage at E2 max with skill 1 can tank Faust, even the purple shot. Skill 2 turns her into a drop-in assassin similar to Skadi, and sometimes even better than Skadi, especially in Contingency Contract. There is a gif showing Utage doing something that Skadi could not do, and both of these were E2 maxed. Some people like to take this as Utage is better than Skadi in literally every situation. That is not true. Skadi has her skill 3, Utage does not have her skill 3. If you put Utage on the bottom lane in Annihilation 3, she will likely die. Versus if you put Skadi on her skill 3 on the bottom lane of Annihilation 3, she could likely survive, especially with the help of a medic. That being said though, for general and universal usage, Utage is more useful than Skadi. Therefore, if you're looking for a single block guard to upgrade and you don't have Helliger, but you have Skadi, Utage, or Melantha, I would level up Utage. The advantage that Utage has over Melantha is that Utage can go into E2, Utage also does arts damage, and Utage can self-recover. The advantage that Melantha has over Utage is that she's easy to level up and can be healed by allies. The advantages of Skadi is that she's strong and she has a faster redeploy time. You can't even really say that Skadi is that much stronger than Utage, because clearly Utage can do something that Skadi cannot. So if you're talking about strength-wise, Utage is at a similar strength to Skadi. Also, being a 4-star, Utage is relatively easy to level up. Are there any maps here where Utage is the go-to option, even more so than Helliger? There actually are, yes. One example of this is the desert stage, where you're gonna get snails that lower your defense. When the snails shoot you, they lower your defense permanently and they stack. So let's say a snail lowers your defense by 10 per shot. The first shot drops your defense by 10, the next shot's gonna drop your defense by 10 again. So over time, all those minus 10s are gonna stack up and eventually you're gonna have a defense of 0. If this happens to Helliger, he can activate a skill 2 for physical dodge, however that's 75% chance. Meaning if you get hit by the 25%, you're probably gonna die. With Utage, because she can activate her skill 1, and I'm using skill 7 here as a realistic example, she can add an additional 160% to her own defense and recover her own health at the same time. This means that though Utage can't dodge, she doesn't have to rely on the dodge in order to live. Not to mention the SP charge for this skill is only 15 seconds and is very reliable. Note, I am not saying that Utage is always better than Helliger on the desert stage. There are various different ways you can deploy Helliger or Utage that would make it more advantageous to use either one of them. I will show strategies for both Helliger and Utage in the guide video for the desert stage, but be aware that in certain deployments, Utage will be better than Helliger, just like how in other deployments, Helliger would be better than Utage. So would I level up Utage specifically for CC? I absolutely would, even if I have Helliger and Scotty, just because she can do things that neither of them can do. But for universal usage, ask yourself the question of how often do you use a single block guard? If you have Helliger, for example, you may use it more often. If you don't have Helliger, maybe not so much. Remember that Utage is the baby version of Helliger, so if you already have Helliger, you're not really going to be using Utage in the base game. You absolutely can, and there will be some inherent advantages of using Utage. You can even use Utage alongside Helliger, but she's absolutely not necessary by all means. That being said, would I level her up for the general game, even if I have Helliger? My answer would be yes, I would, because having Utage as a secondary option is great. She's not that expensive to level up, and she does her job so well. I absolutely think that Utage is a worthy investment, regardless of whether you're in CC or not. I don't know whether we will get Purestream or not, but because she comes before Utage, I'll cover her anyway. Purestream is a 4-star wide-range medic similar to Ceylon. Purestream is actually better than Ceylon for most cases because at E2, she can grant the resist effect to the ally that she heals for 4 seconds. This means that this ally will only be stunned, chilled, or frozen for half the amount of time. You can instantly imagine where this would be useful. Her skill 1 heals all the allies within range and it only costs 20 SP to charge up. I think this is her go-to skill. It just makes her heal faster and it randomly chooses who to heal for 50% of her attack. And it costs 60 SP to charge up. I don't understand skill 2. Seems kind of bad to me. I would go for skill 1. By the way, for those who are unfamiliar with wide range medics, this is what their range looks like. Anyone who is close to her gets 100% of the heal. Anyone else who is near the outside gets only 70% of the heal. And by the way, wide range medics have a lower attack power than standard single target medics. So Purestream here has 430 base attack, plus Trust would be 465. So keep that in mind, 465. Purestream is a 4-star medic. So if we compare that to, say, Mira at E2 max has 465, which is exactly the same as Purestream with Trust. However, Mira has not accounted for Trust yet, so if you account Trust for Mira, it'd be 512. When you look at it this way, Purestream stats aren't actually that bad. However, you still have to factor in the 70% thing when healing targets that are near the outside of her range. In my opinion, Purestream is actually pretty good, and I think she's a worthy investment if you want to diversify your roster a little bit. Are there any stages here where she is a standout operator? I would say only one, being the Frozen stage because of the resist effect. So would I level up Purestream specifically for Contingency Contract? I think specifically for CC, for the one map, I feel like that's a waste. That being said, for general gameplay, I feel that if I already have an established team with established medics and established full roster, if I want to bring in an extra operator that does something different, I would level up Purestream to at least E1 something. But if my base team is not fully established yet, I would not bother with Purestream. Yes, the resist effect on the ice map is very good and it can open up a lot of doors that may be closed otherwise. However, it's up to you to determine whether that's worth the investment into Purestream or not. Ambryo, 4-star true sniper. I don't know what other people call this archetype of snipers, but I like to call them true snipers because of their crazy good range, as well as their ability to target lowest defense enemies first. For those who are unfamiliar with Ambryo, Ambryo has the unique skill on skill 2 to increase her range to the entire map while increasing her attack damage. This allows Ambryo to deal a lot of damage to enemies in remote locations while keeping herself safe. The skill cooldown is also only 25 seconds, which is actually quite short. The uptime is also 40 seconds, which is incredible. Ambryo specifically excels at targeting low defense enemies that do a lot of damage. So examples of these can be exploding spiders, mortar enemies, casters, especially ice casters or double casters. These guys all tend to have low defense, but they can do a lot of damage to you. Ambryo a lot of the time is able to take them out before they get too close to you, or at least weaken them significantly so by the time they do get to you, they die pretty fast. Ambryo should not be used as a primary DPS, she is a support DPS. If you have a target that's standing still and not moving, that's very good for Ambryo. Ambryo will probably kill that thing. But if they're running at you like a dog or something, there's a high chance they'll actually get to you before Ambryo can kill them because Ambryo has a slow attack speed. That being said though, she does do a lot of damage, so maybe she can kill them. Basically, if you're gonna run Ambriel, make sure you familiarize yourself with how she works. There's nothing worse than expecting her to one-shot a spider than having her shoot at it and having it not die. Are there any maps here where she excels at? Yes, there actually are. The desert stage has a lot of slugs. Slugs have a notoriously low defense. You can put Ambriel somewhere safe and she can pick off the slugs from a distance. On that note, I just want to add that Ambriel, even at E2 max M3 skill, can one-shot the red snails but cannot one-shot the regular snails. Reason is, regular snails have an 80 defense, but red snails have 0 defense. I don't know why the red snails have a lower defense than the regular one. That's just how it is. So just 3C, when he was doing this stage on CC1, he actually dropped Ambriel in favor of just using everything else. But that being said, he does have W and Weedy to back him up as well. I think that if we were to use Ambriel for CC0, we could probably figure out a way to do it if we really wanted to do it. But then again, we are talking about E2 max M3 skilled Ambriel, so that's not exactly a cheap investment. There are many other operators that you can level up without getting to E2 max M3 skill that you can get a lot more mileage from than Ambriel. The ice stage also has a lot of ice casters. However, you're gonna have to find a position to place Ambriel in, and there's not many positions that can keep her safe. Transit Station is a pretty bad map for Ambriel because most of the guys here have high defense. New Street as well, you're gonna get a mob rush. Having Ambriel's slow attack speed will not help with the mob rush. As for Shattered Avenue, you can absolutely use Ambriel. There are going to be spiders. However, the spiders do have a risk to make them invisible, and if you make them invisible, Ambriel's not gonna help you. Would I level up Ambriel specifically for Contingency Contract? If I already had a pre-established team, yes. So me personally, I did level up Ambriel specifically for Contingency Contract. I currently have her sitting at E1 level 1. I might bring her to E1 level 50. Again, I don't need her to kill anything. I just need her to damage things, so by the time they get to me, they die. For other people that aren't me, because I don't know your teams, Ambriel may not be the best option. You could better spend your resources elsewhere, especially if your team is not already established. Ambriel is one of those operators that if you know how to use her and you know how you want to use her, you can definitely use her. But if you look at her and you get confused, you're like, well, how the hell am I going to use this? Then she's probably not for you. Would I level up for the general game? Well, let's be honest here. From what I described to you, that situation is very, very niche. So for the general game, probably not. However, if you already have an established team, you want to diversify a little bit, have some more fun operators in here that can do some different things, yeah, go ahead. Mei, 4-star sniper that does slow. So for Mei, she has the ability to slow or stun targets. I really like Mei, but I never had a chance to use her. I absolutely do think that she's like an improved version of Cruz. Yeah, Cruz doesn't do slow, but like, none of the 3-star snipers do any special abilities. Mei does what Cruz does, but slows as well, so like it's just better. You don't really need to think about it that hard. Yeah, of course, most if not all of the 4-star snipers are better than the 3-star snipers. So would I use Mei anywhere here? I actually think she could realistically be used because she does slow. I think if you don't have any better snipers and you like, let's say your best sniper is like Meteor and like Vermeel and Mei, then yeah, go use Meteor, Vermeel, and Mei. I think they'll work just fine. But if you have an Exu, Platinum, Blue Poison, and Greythroat, maybe hold off on the Mei and upgrade those higher rarity ones instead. Like, yes, her slow is good, but I don't know that any strategy depends on her slow unless you're doing like a full low rarity run or you're playing specifically to Mei's advantage, which you can totally do. If you have Mei leveled and you really like using Mei, and I don't blame you, she has a cute design, you can absolutely play Mei into your advantage by slowing the enemies and doing some stuff to them. Would I level up Mei specifically for Contingency Contract? No, I don't see a reason to. I feel that the 5-stars and 6-star snipers are just better. Would I level up Mei for the base game, period? You can make an argument for it because of the slow, but I just don't think that's really necessary, so I wouldn't. Ethan. Okay, now we start to get to things that are used for 27 risk clears. So Ethan was used for Shattered Avenue 27 risk. However, it's not Ethan alone that allowed the 27 risk run to work. It was Ethan combined with everyone else there working together. Judging specialists is a very hard thing to do because it's in their name, they're specialists. So of course they're gonna be very niche, like of course. But usually these specialists do their niche thing very well, so it's hard to categorize them. For all of these maps, Desert Stage is the last stage that you would want to use Ethan on because those things will shoot the shit out of your Ethan, and your 50% dodge chance is not gonna guarantee you a dodge every single time. New Street could be pretty good, especially if you put him on the left side. Since there's a big mob rush, you can AoE damage them and bind them. Hopefully maybe crowd control them a little bit. Transit Station, you could be playing RNG here a little bit. There are going to be those chargers from Code of Brawl. And if you're playing one of the risks like no guards and no defenders, there's no way you can block the chargers. However, Ethan can bind them. So that could be an option for you to use going into Transit Station. And as for the ice stage here, you can use Ethan, but I'm not sure if that's the best option. See, I say that you can because there's going to be a lot of enemies clumping up in the middle, so you can definitely bind them for crowd control. However, because of the ice casters, your Ethan might get frozen instead. Going back to Shadowed Avenue, if you'd like to know how to do a 27 risk run, I will do a full analysis of that in the future, but know that just because you have Ethan at E2 max M3 does not mean you'll be able to easily get a 27 risk run. In order for the full strategy of the 27 risk run to work, you need to have a maxed out Ethan, maxed out Manticore, maxed out Silver Ash, maxed out Feeder, maxed out Cliffhard, and a maxed out Shaw. And that's not even mentioning the other operators that you need to have maxed out in order for you to get this far anyway. So would I raise Ethan specifically for CC? Specifically for CC? Unless I was going for that 27 risk run and I had all of the other operators that I just mentioned, no, not specifically for CC. For general gameplay, yes, I would level him up, especially if I already have an established team, because again, it's just opening doors to different options. Ethan has one of those door openers, and he's just good to have. Okay, Vermeel, 4-star sniper. Vermeel is basically baby blue poison, and it's in the name. You have blue poison, you don't need Vermeel. However, again, as with every other sniper, if you don't have enough snipers, raise some 4-star snipers. Are there any stages here where you would use Vermeel instead of blue poison? Not really, no. Okay, would I level up Vermeel for CC? If I needed another sniper? Yeah. Would I level up Vermeel for the base game? I would bring her up to E1 because she has a pretty powerful base skill. Durnar, everyone should have Durnar because she's in the friend credit store. Durnar is a 4-star arts damage vanguard. Durnar is a 4-star arts damage defender. Is there any map here where I would use Durnar? Well, there are a few where having an arts damage defender could be quite useful. We're talking about Transit Station and New Street here. Shadowed Avenue, not really, because the guys that come on the top have pretty good res, especially once you block them. So Durnar is not really the best option there. And as for New Street, look, New Street, arts damage is good, but Durnar doesn't have enough defense to tank the red otter dudes. So I don't think she'll live there unless you, I don't know, maybe Shining and Warfarin to keep her healed. I don't think Durnar is the best option for New Street, but I definitely can see how you may want to use her. And for Transit Station, could be a good option because all the guys here are weak to magic. And so because you have a 3-block defender, you can block the charging dude and then pummel him with arts damage. I can see that totally working, but keep in mind that this is Contingency Contract, so there are going to be buffs to the enemies and debuffs to your own team. So you're probably going to have to keep her healed. Durnar's defense is not the best. She is an offensive type vanguard after all. So do keep in mind that if you plan to use her, there's a chance she might get wiped off the planet. Would I raise her specifically for CC? Probably not, because there are better options. Like, okay, let's say that you don't have a single 5-star defender. Let's say your best defender is 4-star. Well, I'm sure you have Quora, right? Like if you have Quora, Gumi, I mean, that's really all you need, Quora and Gumi, even if you have no 5-star defenders, right? But I guess if you feel like you need an extra defender, especially an offensive type defender, I guess Durnar is a good go-to, but I personally wouldn't do it. Would I raise Durnar for the general game? Well, if you already have, even if you already have an established team, I don't think you really need an arts defender. And I've raised her thinking, hey, maybe having an arts defender is good, but rarely do I ever feel the need to use an arts defender. You could bring her up to E1 for the base skill in headquarters, and that's about it. Myrtle. Do I need to tell you to E2 your Myrtle? Because I don't think that needs to be said. Is there any map here where Myrtle is the go-to? Yeah, all of them. If you have a Myrtle, bring her up to E2 and M3 both skills. If you're a normal player, you should be able to M3 both skills in 1 month. If you want to prioritize and not do both skills, skill 1 is the go-to skill. However, skill 2 opens up a lot of doors. I would focus everything onto skill 1 first, but if you have extra resources, I would do skill 2 as well. Would I level her up for the base game? Absolutely. This makes Myrtle the first priority unit on this list. It doesn't mean that she is the most priority unit out of all the operators in the entire game. It just means that she is the first operator on this current list so far to show up. So what that means is that you should prioritize E2ing and M3ing Myrtle, especially her skill 1, over the E1s of any of the previous operators I just listed. There are exceptions to this rule, but you should know these exceptions yourself. I'm talking about if you have a massive hole in your game, like if you don't have a single E1 or E2 sniper, like all your snipers are E0 somehow, yeah, okay, you have other priorities. But that's rarely the case for anybody here. Susuro, okay, Susuro is baby warfarin. Susuro is a 4-star single target medic. The special thing about Susuro is that she heals like a crazy amount. However, her skill can only be used twice in the same battle. So if you're looking for a single target medic that does a crazy amount of healing, and you don't have any better medics that can do crazy amounts of healing, like a warfarin, absolutely Susuro is an extremely powerful 4-star medic. And yes, even though you can only use the skill twice, sometimes that's all you need. Are there any maps here that stand out as a Susuro map? Yes, New Street is one that stands out because the red otters hit you extremely hard, but they don't come that frequently. So what you can do is use Korra to tank most of the damage without activating Susuro. Then the next time someone comes in, activate Susuro. Then the next time someone comes, activate Korra. Then the next time, activate Susuro, and then you'll be done with the stage. Would I level up Susuro specifically for CC? I think it's a good option to have. I really do think so, especially if you don't have a warfarin. Even if you do have a warfarin, if you wanted to make sure that you get that heal in, Susuro is also a good idea. The thing that sets Warfarin apart from Susuro is that Warfarin heals infinitely, but her attack speed doesn't increase. So when you're dealing with those red otter guys, there's a very high chance they'll just shred your guys before Warfarin gets to heal at all. While on the flip side, Susuro increases her attack speed, and it lasts for 30 seconds straight. Meaning for those 30 seconds, it'd be very hard for any of the enemies to kill whatever operator they're hitting. So there is an advantage to using Susuro instead of Warfarin. Would I level it up for the base game? Probably not, because I already have Warfarin. So Susuro for CC, you can absolutely live without Susuro. So if you don't feel like investing in another medic, don't. Gray, 4-star AoE caster with a slow ability. Gray is very underutilized because of his terrible art, and I feel bad for the artist for saying that, but I have to agree. And yeah, I know the artist put a lot of hard work into it, but I'm not vibing with this. This ain't it. Not that I can draw better though. Gray is actually a pretty good option. Some of the standout maps that I'm thinking of are New Street, Frozen Ruins, and Transit Station. Not Desert, because Gray has short range, so those snails are gonna shred it. And not Shattered Avenue as well, because I'm thinking no casters here. If you do want to run casters, you can absolutely clear 18 risk with casters. But once you get higher, like above 20, you're probably gonna have to swap from a caster strategy into a guard strategy. So I'm thinking mainly New Street, Frozen Ruins, and Transit Station. Gray could shine because in New Street, you get a bunch of mobs all huddled up in one tiny little area. So you can use Gray to slow all of them down for crowd control and magic damage. For Transit Station, of course, you got those chargers running out at you. So slowing them down and doing magic damage to them at the same time, quite nice to have. And for Frozen Ruins, a bunch of people gather up near the middle. So having the option to crowd control them with slow as well as doing arts damage, quite nice to have. Do note the existence of 6-star AoE caster Mostima. While Gray slows everyone that he hits, Mostima slows everyone in her range passively. She also has the ability to completely stun lock them in place while doing magic damage. So Mostima is an upgrade to Gray. So Gray, I think, is an entirely legitimate option for Contingency Contract, but he is very underutilized, and I can't really find a lot of proof to support this. So I'm gonna say this. On paper, it seems that Gray will work quite well, but in practice, I can't say for sure because I haven't seen any evidence. Would I recommend leveling up Gray specifically for Contingency Contract? I think that if you're willing to give him a chance, yes, I think so. If you're willing to give him a chance, yeah. Would I level him up for the base game? I think that Gray, because he's an AoE caster, that does more than just AoE caster things. Because he's slow, I feel that he is actually one of the more useful AoE casters, and I do feel that he's a good investment for the regular game. However, I personally don't need an AoE caster who does slow, and I don't think a lot of people need that either, so it's completely up to you, I think. If you have an established team and you want to give Gray a chance, then yes, I think Gray will work very well. Matterhorn, a 4-star arts resist defender. Are there any maps here where Matterhorn really stands out? Not really. Because the only map where things are doing magical damage is Frozen Ruins and Shattered Avenue. And having a defender specifically to sponge that damage is kind of unnecessary. Would I level up Matterhorn specifically for CC? no. Even if I didn't have a better defend, I mean, I guess if you don't have any other better defenders, you could make an argument for it. But if you have Korra, Durnar, and Gumi, go for Korra and Gumi instead. That's the 2 defenders in the 4-star class that are really good. Like Matterhorn, I'm not saying Matterhorn is bad. Matterhorn's good at what he does, but I really don't think it's necessary at all. Even for the base game, I don't think he's necessary at all. Yeah, he does defender teaching. I mean, if you need defender training, go ahead. Okay, Gumi. Gumi is a 4-star healing defender. Some of you guys may only have Gumi as your one and only healing defender. Like, you don't have Myrtle, you don't have Saria. Okay, maybe you have Spot. But if she is your one and only healing defender, absolutely level her up. Healing defenders are extremely important in Contingency Contract. So, especially if you don't have a choice, absolutely level her up. Now, if you do have a choice between Myrtle or Gumi, I'm not counting Saria because Saria is just the best. Like, she's the best, period. If you have to choose between Myrtle and Gumi, first of all, do both if you can. But if you can't do both and you're forced to choose, I think Gumi may actually be better than Myrtle. Because Myrtle only heals when operators are below 50% HP, while Gumi heals regardless of what health your operators are on. So there is a reason to choose Gumi over Myrtle in certain situations. And she applies to every single map because on all of these maps you can use a healing defender somewhere. So Gumi, would I raise her for CC? I think yes. Even because if you have Saria and no Myrtle, and Saria is your only healing defender, yeah, raise up Gumi. Raise up Gumi to have a second healing defender. I think people should have at least 2 healing defenders. So yes, definitely raise her up for CC. For the base game alone, if you have a Saria, no. Like, you're not going to be using Gumi if you have Saria in the base game. You only really need 1 healing defender. There's no stage in the base game that can do so much to you that calls for 2 healing defenders. Korra, 4-star pure defender. I'm pretty sure she has the highest defense out of all the other defenders, even higher than Nien, I think. And the best part about that, like, even if her defense is not like number 1, I think she's like number 2, or like she's somewhere in the top 3, okay? But the thing that makes that stand out is that she's a 4-star, meaning it's so easy to invest in, so easy to get her to level up. So it's a mixture of how good her stats are and how easy it is to get to those stats that makes Korra so good. Is there any map here where you would want to use Korra over any other defender? Absolutely. All of these maps here, you can make an argument to use Korra over any other defender. You can absolutely make that argument. Standout maps in particular is the New Street map. If you put Korra on that defense tile and funnel all the enemies to that defense tile, especially those hard-hitting red auto dudes, when you activate Korra's skill, they will not be able to pass her. So should you level up Korra specifically for Contingency Contract? Absolutely yes. Should you level up Korra for the base game? Absolutely yes. She's just another one of those 4-star operators that are so easy to level and do so much for your team. There's really no reason for you not to do this. Okay, I lied. There is one reason, and that is if you have Nien and Hoshi. If you just have Nien and no Hoshi, then raise Korra. If you just have Hoshi and no Nien, then raise Korra. It's good to have 2 tanky defenders. But if you have both Nien and Hoshi and you plan to invest in both of them, Nien can do most of what Korra can do, but even better because she can go offensive. And same situation with Hoshi. Those 2 do more damage than Korra and have the same amount of tankiness. Matuimaru, self-healing single block Vanguard 4-star. The thing with Matuimaru is that she's a single block guard in the 4-star category, which is same as Utage, meaning she just gets power crept by Utage pretty hard. The thing that she has that's better than Utage is that she has a lower DP cost. But for everything else, Utage is just your go-to single block guard in the 4-star category. Are there any maps here I would use Matuimaru over Utage? No. Absolutely no. Would I level up Matuimaru specifically for CC? No. Would I level up for the base game? If I'm gonna get Utage, no. If I have any better single block guards, no. If I'm already using Melantha, no. Because you really don't need what Matuimaru brings to the table. Like, Melantha does her job so good that even though Matuimaru can be better than Melantha, you don't really need that. Like, you're better off putting that investment into some other operators. Same situation as Scotty. Frostleaf, 4-star range guard that does slow. Unfortunately, she does not do arts damage, which is why I would prefer Midnight over Frostleaf. I would rather have a range guard that does arts damage so I can kill them faster, rather than slowing them down and not really doing much with that. Is there any map here where I would want to use Frostleaf over a Midnight, for example? Not really, no. Maybe Transit Station if I want to slow them so that I could damage them with my casters? Like, that's just a maybe. I would still use Midnight because I can kill them faster. So, I don't see a reason to use Frostleaf. Would I level up for CC? No. Would I level up for the base game? Probably the E1 so you get the factory ability. For actual usage? Not really, no. Moose, I am cursed. I still don't have Moose. I've been playing this game for half a year. Moose is a 4-star arts damage single block guard. She has the special ability to debuff enemy attack, which no other arts guard has. Is there any map here where I would prefer Moose over any other operator? Well, wherever there is someone who hits you particularly hard, if you want to lower their attack so that they don't kill you as fast, Moose can come in handy, even more so than Estacia. Now, the only map that I can think of where this would be the case is Transit Station, New Street, and Frozen Ruins. The thing is, though, with New Street, most of the time you're gonna put your defender on the defense tile here. So if you put your defender on the defense tile, I don't know how you're gonna put Moose in a way to debuff the person hitting the defense tile. So because I think the map is a bit fucky here, I don't think you'll be able to deploy Moose. For Frozen Ruins as well, they go down this like corridor on the right side. That's where the big hitters go. I don't know how you're gonna put Moose there to hit like the guy hitting your defender. Like, the map doesn't allow that. For Transit Station though, you can work this one out. Now for Transit Station, it's less about debuffing them. It's more about using arts damage to kill them. So in this scenario, Estacia would be better. So while in theory New Street and Frozen Ruins, you could use Moose over Estacia because of the debuff, I think the map layout makes that kind of hard. That being said though, we are seeing the return of Area 59, where Moose does come in handy to debuff the attack of the gas masks. I think Moose is a better option here than Estacia, especially if you have the gas mask buffed. However, I don't think leveling up Moose for one map in particular is really that worth it. So, would I level up Moose specifically for Contingency Contract? If I don't have any other arts guards, right? If I don't have, let's say I don't have 2 arts guards, right? Let's say I only have like Lapland, and she's not even a full arts guard, right? Lapland can change into arts damage, but she's not really a full arts guard. Like, if I just had Lapland, yeah, I'd level up a Moose. Or maybe I just have Estacia, I could level up Moose. If I just have Chen, I'll level up a Moose. If I just have Midnight, I'll level up a Moose. Let's say I have Estacia, Moose, and Midnight. Would I level up Moose over Midnight? I feel that Midnight's probably more useful because he's a ranged guard, he can hit more things. Just because of the way the maps are laid out, it's gonna be hard to deploy Moose. So even though she's good at what she does, and I don't think it's a wasted investment if you do level up for CC, I just feel that there may be some better options to look into. Would I level up Moose for the base game? Probably not, because I already have Estacia. If you don't have Estacia, maybe, but like, how often do you need an arts damage single block guard? Like, yes, having them does open up options. It does open up doors, but do you need that? Like, do you have the materials to allow yourself to open that door? If you can, go ahead and do it, but like, if you're tight on resources, maybe reconsider that. Okay, so at this point, I've already been recording for 2 hours, so if you have not already, make sure you subscribe and hit that bell icon because it is not easy to make these videos and talk for so long. Okay. Bee Hunter. Bee Hunter is a 4-star single block guard that specializes in having high DPS and fast attack speed, but a lower attack stat in general. This archetype of guard is like not that good. I would go as far as to say that they're pretty damn bad. The only stage that Bee Hunter would be good for, specifically good for, would be the Desert Stage because you're dealing with low defense enemies. But the thing is, the snails on this stage, they shoot you from a distance, meaning in order for Bee Hunter to touch them, they have to shoot her first. So that, like, completely defeats the purpose of having the Bee Hunter there. So, is there any stage here that she would be particularly good for? No. There are actually all of these stages here are particularly bad for Bee Hunter. If you don't understand why, it's because of the attack defense formula. I'm not gonna get into it in this video, but basically, Bee Hunter has a low attack already. If you further lower that attack with one of the risks, and then you increase the enemy defense, you're not going to be doing anything to them, you're just going to be tickling them, that's it. So would I level up Bee Hunter for CC? Absolutely not. I would go as far as to discourage it. I think it's a very bad idea to do this. I think Bee Hunter is a bad operator for CC in general. Would I level up Bee Hunter for the actual game itself? I think Bee Hunter is not that good of an operator in the actual game. I would not waste my materials on Bee Hunter. Estelle, 4-star AoE guard. We finally get the ability to E2 an AoE guard, meaning we can take advantage of their 3-block. Is there any map here where I would use Estelle over a better AoE guard, such as Broca, Spectre, or Blaze? Not really, but she is better than Poppycur. So if you like, wherever you could use Poppycur, you could easily use Estelle there and it would just work just as well. So an example of a place that you can use Poppycur is like on the desert stage, right over here. You can put Poppycur right there facing down, or Poppycur right there facing right, because whatever comes out of this hole, they go to the left and it gets stuck on this area here. So if you have Poppycur there, or Estelle there with a healing defender, they'll be able to take that spot just fine. So Estelle can be used there, but like Spectre is better. Blaze is better, Broca is better. Savage is more or less the same as Estelle, so you're gonna get the same comments for Savage. So Estelle is not really a standout. Like you can use her, but she doesn't really stand out. So would I level up Estelle specifically for CC? If she's your best AoE guard and you feel the need to use an AoE guard, but you don't really need to use an AoE guard, here's the thing. Yeah, I mean, if you have an established team and you're just missing AoE guards and the best AoE guard you got is Estelle and you want to open up that avenue of having an AoE guard, sure, go ahead. But I don't think that's really necessary. Would I level her up for the base game? A 4-star AoE guard? No. I would wait until I get a Spectre or a Blaze or something that's better than an Estelle, because you really don't need the AoE guard like Arknights. Doberman, everybody's favorite 0-star guard. She has the unique like range. I don't know what you call this, like a support guard, I guess. Yeah, support guard sounds good. So her range is like that. Doberman is known for being trash. The thing that she does is she buffs 3-star operators, and she does like somewhat decent DPS herself. It's nothing incredible. Are there any maps here where you would specifically choose to use Doberman? Okay, well here's the thing with Doberman. If you're gonna use Doberman, you better be running a 3-star team. If you're running a low rarity 3-star team, Doberman will buff all of them, and that's a good thing. But if you're not running a full 3-star team, why the hell are you bringing Doberman? So no, there is no advantage to bringing her to any of these maps. There is a disadvantage because you're taking her and you're taking up one of the unit slots where you could better take someone else. Would I use Doberman specifically for CC? Absolutely not. Would I use Doberman in the base game period? I don't run a full 3-star team, so no. If you are one of those people who like to use low rarity only, then yes. But if not, no. Earth Spirit. Extremely underutilized 4-star supporter, and the reason she's underutilized is because Orchid can do her job just as well. Yeah, Earth Spirit does some things, like she slows a bit more and whatnot, but like the reason nobody invests in Earth Spirit is because in the beginning of the game, you're rarely using Orchid, right? And so when you have Earth Spirit, who is just like a slow supporter that doesn't really do that much more than Orchid, people don't really see the need to spend on Earth Spirit when Orchid can do that slow job just fine. And I think the same applies for CC. If you're gonna use Earth Spirit, you really could just use Orchid and you could get away with it. Like, yeah, the skill 2 slows all enemies at the same time. Orchid cannot slow all enemies at the same time. If you're playing specifically for that route, yeah, there's no way Orchid can replicate this. No way, right? So if you already have an Earth Spirit level, yeah, you can do this. But would I specifically level up an Earth Spirit just for CC? Really a hard no on that one, I think. Are there any maps here where Earth Spirit particularly stands out? I mean, better than Orchid? Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Like if you haven't leveled up Orchid and you want to level up a slow supporter, yeah, go do Earth Spirit. Go do Earth Spirit, right? Like, she will be better for the role. But if you already have Orchid leveled and you don't have Earth Spirit leveled, I don't think it's worth. Because just like, wherever you could use Orchid, you can use Earth Spirit. She'll be better. But Orchid does the job fine. It's like if you have Melantha, should you level up Scotty? Yeah, Scotty can do it better, but do you need that? Like, can those resources be better off being spent somewhere else? That's the thing. So, Earth Spirit, would I level up for CC? No. Would I level up in the base game? No. Like, the base skill doesn't help at all either. Deep Color? Deep Color, 4-star supporter summoner. Deep Color falls under one of those categories where if you're not playing summoners, she's not gonna be that useful to you, question mark. See, Deep Color's in a weird place, right? Because you have this range and the what is it, like the 35% dodge. Like, that's okay. You could probably use her on a lot of these maps. I'm thinking maybe the desert stage she'd be particularly good in because you can use the summons to tank some shots. Like, it's not really fair for me to compare Deep Color to Mayor or Magaland either. So, like, let me put it this way. If you use Deep Color and you know how to use Deep Color, you can use it for CC. If you have no idea how to use Deep Color at all, don't bother with it. Like, in order for you to play summoners, you need, like, brain. Like, you need to understand how they work. I don't think... If I told you to level up Deep Color, because you can use Deep Color on the desert stage to tank some shots, it's like... If you've never used Deep Color before, it'll probably just feel a bit weird. Probably, like, if I didn't tell you to level up Deep Color, you'd probably still be able to beat the stage, just, like, in a different way. So, like, if you're not a Deep Color user, don't bother with Deep Color. Would I level her up specifically for CC? If I don't have her leveled up? No. Would I level her up for the base game? Maybe if you want to experiment with her, but she's, like, so different. I can't give you a clear answer on that one. Jessica, 4-star sniper, does nothing special other than skill 2, which gives her a dodge. Where can this be useful? I think you can definitely use the dodge on the desert stage, but it is 75% dodge, not like Firewatch's smoke screen. So I don't know how reliable that's gonna be. And then also it takes 44 seconds to charge up. That's like a while. 44 seconds is a while. What about for Shattered Avenue? There's so many better snipers. The only reason you would use Jessica over any other sniper is because of that smoke screen. But that smoke screen is still RNG and it has a long cooldown. So it's not the best skill, but if you were to use Jessica, I think you'd be using that. Would I recommend leveling up Jessica for CC? No. Would I use Jessica in the actual game? No. Meteor, okay. 4-star sniper that does debuff. Meteor is actually quite useful, I think. Are there any maps here where I would choose Meteor over a higher rarity sniper? That you can make an argument for. Because if you have a sniper there that can debuff them, it would allow you to kill them a lot faster. Because she does do a minus 30% defense debuff every 4 shots, which is kind of good. Or if you want to use skill 2, you can debuff like a bunch of people at the same time. If you're combining that with like AoE sniper, that could do some pretty good damage. So yeah, there is an argument that you can make where using Meteor would be better than a higher rarity Vanguard. Where would you use this? I'm thinking maybe Transit Station because you can debuff some of those guys over here, just some of like the tough guys. I'm thinking maybe on New Street you can definitely use a Meteor somewhere in here because you can use blocks to funnel them wherever you want. And there's so many range tiles here, it's lots of good options. Frozen Ruins as well, there's a lot of people here. I think for Frozen Ruins, you're better off just straight up using a caster instead of a sniper. Would I level up Meteor specifically for CC? I think it's a good idea to bring her to E1 because you can then skill 7 it. Probably not E1 level 1, right? Like maybe leave her at E1 level 1 going into CC. And then depending on what you need, then maybe level her up to like E1 50 or something. If you know that you absolutely want to play the buff debuff game and you absolutely want to use Meteor, heck, go ahead and throw her up to E150. That might be good. Her base skill also helps you out, by the way. Other than working in workshop, she can also help out in Door. After Meteor, we have Shirayuki. If you do not have Meteorite, level up Shirayuki. First off, like right off the bat. If Shirayuki's the best AoE sniper that you have, level up Shirayuki. W is not going to be coming for until like 6 months. So the great thing about Shirayuki, other than the ability to E2 unlike Catapult, so you can take full advantage of the range, she also does AoE magic damage and slowing the enemy at the same time. So this is super good for crowd control situations. Like, let's talk New Street. Super good there because you can funnel them all into the one spot, AoE magic them and slow them at the same time. Super good for the desert stage because they all come over here on the top, like all those big slugs. You put her somewhere back there, she can hit all the slugs. Magic damage hits them as well. They got no res. It's good damage, right? Transit Station is good because they rush at you, so you can slow them down and do magic damage because they're weak to magic. And Frozen Ruins, you got a lot of dudes clumping up in the middle here, so again, magic and slow. All 4 of the daily maps, Shirayuki is pretty good for. Will I level up Shirayuki specifically for CC? If I don't have a Meteorite, yes. If I do have a Meteorite, it's still considerable. Just because Meteorite doesn't slow and Meteorite doesn't do arts damage. Having this option, sometimes I think Shirayuki will beat out Meteorite. So yes, I would level her up specifically for CC. I would also level up for the base game. Shaw. Okay, Shaw is in an interesting position. Again, with the specialists, like how do you rank a specialist? They're special. Like, what am I supposed to do? If you want to play shifters on the daily maps, go ahead. I don't know how you're gonna do it. I haven't looked into it. I'm not really that curious. I'm sure someone can figure something out where you can play some shifters in the daily maps. But when we're talking shifters, we're mainly talking about the perma stage map. The shifting tile over here allows you to push enemies upwards on the top lane, so you don't have to defend the bottom lane. All you need is a strong top lane. And the reason that's good is because of these lava tiles here. You can basically force the enemies to stand on the lava and they'll burn to death, which is a lot more effective than trying to kill them yourself. So having a Shaw or feeder up here to push them up is very good. Now, if you already have feeder at M3 because you've done area 59, you ain't needing a Shaw. That being said, if you don't have a feeder level and you do have a Shaw, you don't even need to E1 the Shaw. Shaw at skill level 4, standing on this tile, works perfectly fine. Like, you don't need to level her at all. Is it better if you M3 her? I mean, you can make an argument that it'd be better. But, okay, skill level 4 to skill level 7, not a big difference. To M3, that's a difference. So if you don't have feeder, or you don't want to use feeder here, and you have a Shaw, yeah, I mean, you can dump a Shaw there. The level really doesn't matter. As long as it's skill 4 or higher, like anything above skill 4, you're good to go. Would I level her up specifically for CC? Depending on whether I have a feeder or not. And also, like, what do you mean by leveling her up? Bring her up to E1? I don't see a need to bring her up to E1. If my Shaw is at E0, I might E0 max her. I don't know. But, like, level up the skill to 4? Yeah, okay, sure, maybe. But I already have feeder at M3. So, I really don't need to do that. Would I level up Shaw for the base game? Already have feeder at M3. If you don't have Shaw, if you don't have feeder at a high level, maybe level up Shaw. I don't know. Like, I feel like feeder is just better. Like, if you have a feeder, you should just level up your feeder. Rope, 4-star specialist, Polar. I don't really think you should invest in Rope. I think you should invest in Cliffhard instead, because Cliffhard can pull multiple opponents in a big area, while Rope can only pull in like a straight line. Now, don't tell me you don't have Cliffhard, because that's a lie. Everybody has Cliffhard. I mean, the advantage that Rope has over Cliffhard is that she's easier to level. I mean, let's take a look at the first stage, okay? So if you had Cliffhard, what you could do is put Cliffhard right over here where my mouse is, face her right, and then pull multiple things all into the one hole at the same time. If you only had Rope, you can only pull in a straight line. So you can only pull in this direction or like that direction. So if you're gonna E1 Rope, like why not just E1 Cliffhard instead? You know, use the skill 2 on Cliffhard. Okay, let's say you're doing New Street. Rope's even worse here because how can you draw a straight line to shift someone? Like, I don't know. I'm not big brain enough to play shifters. I don't see how you're gonna play this. Transit? I don't know how you're gonna rope someone in a way that benefits you. Because it seems like all the rope positions here benefit the enemy. Like, I mean, I guess you could put her over there and pull them backwards, but like, why wouldn't you use Cliffhard instead? Frozen Ruins, again, I don't see any spots where you would use Rope to your advantage. Like, where would you use Rope and not Cliffhard? That's the thing. Cliffhard is just better, especially for Shattered Avenue because of the lava tiles. You should watch 25th Knight's video on how to split box the enemies in between 3 lava tiles so that they can take as much damage as possible. Cliffhard is used for that, not Rope. Cliffhard can pull multiple enemies, Rope can only pull 1. Cliffhard just has that wider range. Like, yes, Rope can pull 2 as well, but the range is what's limiting her here. So would I level up Rope for CC? I don't think so. I think I'd put my investments into Cliffhard instead. Would I level up Rope outside of CC? Maybe if I'm playing some big brain shifters thing, maybe. Ravel, 100% level her up for CC, regardless of whether you have Project Red or not. 100% get her up to E1 level 1. Reason being, you unlock the skill 2 and you can skill 7 the skill 2. Ravel can be used on any of the maps in order to catch leaks, stop a threat, or bait enemy shots. Super useful all the way around. Should you level her up for CC specifically? Yes. Should you level up for the base game? For the base game, actually, not really that necessary. I completed the base game without ever using Gravel at all. But for CC specifically, yeah, absolutely. Gitano, okay. AoE caster 4-star that doesn't do anything special other than the skill 2 having some like longer range. She doesn't really do that much special that other AoE casters can't do other than the range thing, right? And where would you need the range thing in any of these maps? I'm not really sure that there is a case that you can make for that because not many of the enemies stand out of range. It's different than Annihilation 3. In Annihilation 3, Gitano works really well because she has extra range to hit the defense crushers before they move. But none of these maps have guys that don't move that you can't hit, like other than if you had Gitano. So I don't think leveling up Gitano is that smart of an idea. I think you're better off putting those investments somewhere else. If you really wanted an AoE caster, just go straight for Mostima instead. I don't think leveling up Gitano brings you any advantage over Lava, say for example, in any of these maps. I'm not saying you can't use Gitano. I'm not saying that Lava can do what Gitano does. Like, say for example, if you put Gitano on transit station right over here where my mouse is facing right, yeah, she can blast everyone there and everything coming down at the same time, which Lava cannot do. It's just, if you didn't have that, it's not that hard to work around it. So would I level up Gitano for CC specifically? No. Would I level up for the general game? I would if you're struggling to clear Annihilation 3 and you need, and you don't know about the Gitano strategy. I'd look up the Gitano strategy for Annihilation 3 and like do that. Haze, 4-star single target caster. Haze is actually comparable to Amiya, but she's easier to level than Amiya. So a lot of people actually use Haze over Amiya just because they do such similar things, but Haze is just cheaper. The one thing Haze does better than Amiya is that she has the magic debuff. So are there any maps here which I would use Haze on over any other single target caster? Well, you're comparing that to Aya Fiala, because Aya is a single target caster and nobody beats Aya. So when you have that existence there, you start to see that's not really worth it. So then the next thing that people usually say is, okay, well, what if you don't have Aya Fiala? We're comparing Aya Fiala, like you're comparing a 6-star to a 4-star. Of course, a 6-star wins. Yeah, sure. Okay, I get that. If you don't have an Aya, like let's say your strongest caster is Amiya, okay, and you've got no other caster other than that. Oh yeah, go level up your Haze. Like that's kind of important. Go level up your Haze, not just your Haze, like go level up your Steward too, dude. Like that's a big hole in your game, right? But if you've got a stronger caster, let's say you got Ifrit, let's say you got a Kyobi, let's say you got an Aya, would I level up Haze for CC? I would if I have a caster deficiency. If I don't have good casters, yes, I would level up Haze. Would I level up Haze for the general game? Same thing. If I don't have good casters, yes. Perfumer, 4-star AoE medic. Perfumer stands out as a good medic because she has her global heal, which nobody else can do. Also, a lot of people don't have Palopsis, they don't have Breeze, they don't have Nightingale, and so Perfumer is the only AoE medic that they have. If Perfumer is the only AoE medic that you have, absolutely level her up and use her. She is fantastic at her job. However, if you have a Palopsis, for example, maybe you would want to use Perfumer alongside Palopsis, but basically if you have Palopsis, that's all you need. Any stages where Perfumer stands out over Palopsis? Not really. Maybe if you're running like a Helliger or something, right? Maybe if you're running Helliger or Utage or someone who can't get healed normally, maybe a Perfumer would be preferable, right? So because Perfumer can heal Helliger, Perfumer can heal Utage. But if you're not doing that, I think Palopsis has most of the advantage. Would I level her up specifically for CC if I already have another stronger AoE medic? And if I'm not running Helliger? No. If I am running Helliger, there's an argument to be made. If I don't have any other AoE casters, absolutely level her up. Absolutely. You need some AoE medic, like, immediately, right? So absolutely level her up. And for the base game, same thing. I have Helliger. I don't run Perfumer with my Helliger. My Helliger does just fine without Perfumer. Gaviol, pretty strong single target medic, 4-star. Is there any reason to raise Gaviol instead of Susuro? I mean, the reason would be everyone has Gaviol, not everyone has Susuro, right? If you want a great value Susuro, sure, Gaviol will do the job just fine. So everything that I said about Susuro applies for Gaviol. Mira? So Mira is kind of like the 4-star version of Anzo in that she can heal 2 at a time. Mira also has a special ability to heal everyone on the battlefield immediately when she's deployed. That being said though, her heal is not that impressive, and I think she falls off as a medic kind of hard. So if you have a better single target medic, use the better single target medic. If this is the best single target medic you have, you don't have Susuro, I mean, you don't really get to choose, do you? So would I level up Mira specifically for CC if I don't have a better single target medic? Yes. But that's really only if I don't have any better medics. Mira and Gaviol are kind of on the same playing field, but Susuro is just above them. Vigna, I think a lot of people here are already using Vigna. 4-star single block Vanguard. Super strong attack damage. Full refund on retreat. There is a lot of good arguments you can make to use Vigna on a lot of these maps. You can say that she's the best option on a lot of these maps, especially considering that when these maps come out, we're just going to get Bagpipe. So a lot of people won't have Bagpipe leveled yet, but if you do have Bagpipe leveled, Bagpipe just beats Vigna. But if you don't, Vigna does a lot of what Bagpipe can do to a lesser extent, but that doesn't mean Vigna is bad. Vigna is still very good. So everything that I said for Plume, you can reapply this to Vigna, but Vigna is just stronger. In fact, she is the 3rd strongest single block Vanguard in the game, right underneath Reed and Bagpipe. So if you don't have anyone above Vigna, I would definitely recommend building her specifically for CC and for the base game period. Like having a single block Vanguard that is strong opens up a lot of strategies. So definitely level her up. Scavenger falls in this category that is just completely like overwhelmed by Texas. So if you have Texas, no need Scavenger. But if Scavenger's the strongest 2-block Vanguard that you have, and like you have Courier and Scavenger, and that's it, yeah, level up your Scavenger. Like that's an upgrade from Vanilla, but it like you're really looking for Texas. So for Scavenger, take everything that I said for Vanilla, just reapply that for Scavenger. Courier, same thing for Scavenger. Like literally take everything I said for Scavenger, apply that to Courier. Whew, okay, hey, listen. Wait for the next video. I'm going to spend another like 2.5 hours going through the high rarity units, and I want to go into a bit more detail about them as well, because those are the ones that are really going to make a difference. My finger is okay, don't worry, but what you should worry about is joining our Discord server so you can get personalized tips from myself and the rest of our community. Let me know if you have any questions about any of the operators that I mentioned in this video, and I'll try to elaborate on them. Also, remember to subscribe and hit that bell icon, because this guide is coming out very soon and you don't want to miss out. Cheers, everyone!